I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I see somebody straighten the post. That old mom they used to lean back about 3 inches.
I think they put some more duct tape on the bottom of it.
I think you're right.
Okay. Comment. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes from
I don't
last
see the
week?
wheels turn. Are we sure we're on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody have any additions or corrections to the minutes from last week?
I move to accept this presented. I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved and seconded to accept. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Pass 3-0. Okay. Commissioner comments and committee reports.
I have got it. I have none coming up.
Okay, I had two this last week. The first was the K.S.A in Troy last Thursday morning. Had an update from Jennifer Haynes, who's the chronic disease and risk reduction specialist. Then we had an update on the county sanitary codes, which they are Atchison and Brown County are up for consideration this year. That'll be presented later in the year. We had an update on the installers conference that's going to happen in Effingham February 8th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Of course, we're the host technically since we furnished the blue building for that. Then we had also 3 updates on compliance failures with 3 different septic systems in Atchison County. I'm not going to name them now, but have you heard about that, Pat?
I generally get a letter. I generally get copies of letters after. No, I haven't. I generally get copies of letters that they send after they've sent one letter and not gotten a response.
Okay, we just went over the problem that I don't think it's went far enough, maybe it still can be resolved. That was all I had from NEKES. Then I had NECAP meeting Thursday evening. We had organizational meeting, election of officers and that kind of thing. Report from Finance Committee. Report from the Nominating and Governance Committee, the Personnel Committees, Executive Report, and everything seems to be going. It's such a hard thing for me to relay what goes on there because so many of these programs and technical things to do with Head Start, early Head Start, housing, and all of that. So if you ever need to know anything, don't hesitate to hit me up about that. Okay. Stephanie, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Let me come in and chit chat for a second. Last week at our board meeting, we were wanting to add a board member that has some HR experience. We are in the process of updating and revising policy and procedures, and just as an overall person, as a great resource for HR issues. We have Kristen Robinson. She's been with the Guidance Center for a really long time. I think her family's tied. She's technically an Estes. And so it was voted unanimously to approve her for board, and I think I need your approval as well. So I don't know how that all works.
I don't think she would you that.
I don't think we've ever, other than appointing one of you to the board, trying to find your bylaws.
I may be wrong, but I don't think you'd have to have our okay.
I know that Jeff had mentioned when Ethan and Paul came on board, I don't know that if he had to present to you guys about them coming in.
He just mentioned their names, but we didn't vote on it. He just mentioned that those were selected. And
we do have a letter from Kristen.
Yeah, that was her interest letter. I do have a copy of her resume, and everybody saw that at our board meeting. So
Okay.
She's got a lot of really good experience and has a lot of good insight, I think, to offer our board.
So we don't need a formal.
Well, I'm looking. As I said, I don't recall that we've done it before, but it does look like the board shall be composed of a county commissioner or a representative from each of the counties of Atchison, Brown, and Jackson, a consumer of medical services from each of the counties, and a provider of medical services from each of the counties. The members of the board shall be appointed by the respective boards of county commissioners in January for a period of 3 years. So I don't believe we've been doing that. That's what.
Well, I'll give you my opinion. With putting Paul was excellent because he's got financial aid. I think Ethan Halvin was an excellent choice, and I'm sure this one will be as well. I think the board needed some of that.
Yeah, I think it needs a little bit of that. I guess expertise in certain areas.
Yes.
So it's been helpful. They've been really helpful, and certain things have popped up even in my short time there. But so far, it's been really well accepted. So.
Okay.
So I guess if I don't really need official approval.
Well, I think
you want to go ahead and approve.
Oh, okay.
You want? I'll make the motion that we accept or nominate
Kristen Robinson
to the project concern board.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Not opposed. Pass 3-0.
Thank you. We have some exciting news. We were notified just recently that we did get our grant application was accepted by Courtney S. Turner Charitable Trust. So we get some grant money from them to help transportation, the IT upgrade that we would like to have. Right now we communicate by phone. I have to pick up and call a driver to let him know that maybe somebody's ready for pickup or whatnot. The new upgrade would include tablets that have a system where you can enter everything and then you're just notified via cellular Wi-Fi type of stuff. So that was really exciting. That's the first grant I've ever written and felt really good about it. And we ended
Seemed
up,
like we get those every other year. You about figure out every other year you receive.
I felt really good about that. I did get the K.S.A application that was due in November finished, and we are asking for an additional vehicle to our fleet. It's going to be a minivan. It's going to be smaller size. Like we had mentioned just before the meeting, that the non-emergent medical transportation services is pretty much non-existent in Atchison County. Right now, the insurance companies partner with other agencies outside of our county to provide these services. So they are getting the revenue for those outside of Atchison County. So hopefully I'll know by springtime whether we got accepted for that. It's looking really good. I talk with K.S.A quite a bit. Actually, next week I go down for capital review of the grants that were all submitted for this past year, or actually it's fiscal year 19, but they were just due. So I get to learn the process and see how everybody else writes their stuff. So it's going to be a good learning experience, and I feel really, really good about it. We are having one of our annual fundraisers coming up in March. If I could invite you guys, I would love for everybody to come and attend. It's March 3rd. It's a soup and chili supper. They do it every year. So I have flyers. Can I? You guys have those? Sure. And so I would very much like you guys to come and attend. Some things that are some needs around the center that aren't necessarily budgeted in other areas right now, like chairs for the dining room. We have some I guess cosmetic things, but also we would like to change from some freezers that are the lift tops to upright freezers. We do have one right now, but some of those kinds of upgrades. So that's one of our fundraisers. And
you're going to have that there, Project Concern?
Yes, it's going to be at Project Concern, and I'm really hoping for a good turnout. And then I also have a little bit of a breakdown of our numbers for the first quarter. It shows you how many meals were served comparatively to the past fiscal year to now. We're doing a little bit more service, so meals are up just a little bit, rides are up, as well as program service revenue. Program service revenue is your bus fares and what people actually pay for their meals. So all of those are, if you compare fiscal year technically 17 to fiscal year 18 currently, there's a slight increase. And finishing the fiscal year 17, we served over 41,000 meals. That is a lot of meals within this county, and obviously it's a needed service and a very valuable service for people. And then the rides, and I can only see that our rides are going to increase with adding a vehicle and adding that, hopefully getting that non-emergent medical transportation. So feel really good about where we're going and just keep trucking along.
The minivan you talk about, was that a grant or how is that?
It's a part of the K.S.A. application. So K.S.A. will fund 80% of it, and then we have to raise the other 20% of local match. So I think it came to around $8,000 for the local match of that. So, and that will be due when the vehicle is delivered if it's accepted. I haven't heard officially, but when you look in like the way that I submit my reports monthly, the applications review has been complete. So.
Well, who was going to back us up and go to bat with us? Northeast Kansas something.
Area agency?
Yeah, area agency. And that would help. So we all felt that it was pretty much a done deal.
Yeah. And so I've also written another grant for some supplemental for the operational costs and for the minivan as well. So hopefully that will be a good one as well. So just continuing to look for grants and plugging away.
So how will that really work? Will you have a driver for the bus and a driver for the minivan?
Yeah, we would add a driver. We would add driver, and that was also budgeted into our KDOT application overall budget. So there's more operating budget to save from KDOT's side.
And how do residents get a hold of, if they want to take a bus ride, do they get a hold of to you?
Yeah, they call our main phone number. It's the same number for public transportation in town.
And notifies the day before, correct?
We normally like to have the day before advance notice, and then especially if we're doing out of town, there may be some new rules to that. I'm not saying that we could definitely do it in a 24-hour period. There's also Logistic Care and Access to Care that partner with the insurance companies, and they pay for a lot of medical transportation. So there's some requirements that I have to go through with our vehicle, with our insurance, with our drivers. But since we're already KDOT funded public transportation, it's a lot easier for us to provide that service. So then they pay us instead of that person paying us. So, and then people, if they don't have Logistic Care or Access to Care or the Medicaid coverage for the medical transportation, we can still provide that. And figuring out the cost for where all this is going is going to be the next step in the plan. You know, if we get approved for it, how much is it going to cost to travel to Kansas City with the driver? What are the policies or the rules on time limits and that kind of thing? So, but ideally we would need another driver to do that.
With this extra van, that would give a lot more flexibility about if there's more pickups and stuff at close to mealtime or at noontime. Because I had concern where somebody said that they needed to go to Atchison Hospital and they would have to be there at 10:30 or 11. Well, then by the time they got out, the van was delivering people for, the Effingham, and so they were basically stranded for a while. Yeah. So this would give more flexibility, correct?
We provide the transportation out to the county, so when I have one of my only two drivers providing that, we actually go out there every day. We have a young fellow from Achievement Services that is being transported home every day. So when he's gone for that time period, I'm down to one driver. So the people that call for their pickup ride, if it's not scheduled, they do have to wait. Mm-hmm. So it will add a little bit of that cushion too to help with that.
Good.
So the vehicle that I'm asking KDOT for will be both for the addition of medical transportation, but also public transportation. It can be used for that as well.
Okay. That's what I was wanting to clarify, that it wasn't just for...
No, not just for that. It can be used for public transportation.
Okay.
But that's pretty much all I have. I want to make sure you guys, kind of keep you guys updated. And
so when this grant gets approved, have you thought about doing a press release so we get some...
I definitely was going to come talk to you guys.
Okay, well,
yeah,
have a good relationship with the local media. Try to get things promoted.
Working on getting out there more. I'm actually talking at Rotary in February, different places. I have a BC class I'm going to be presenting at, but going out and making sure people know what we offer. I feel like project concern doesn't have the best information out there. So making sure people know what we're offering and what we're adding service-wise. So.
I think people, they miss it, so.
But that's it. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for your continued support of us. And if you have any other questions?
Well, thank you for the job you're doing.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
I'm trying.
Thank all the people that work with you, too. Okay?
Oh, I do.
Okay. Justin?
That's a good output.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were we going to post these at the courthouse or something? Or?
Yeah. Do you want to post that on the board out there?
Mm-hmm.
I got mine in my calendar.
It seemed like I had last night at the city council meeting. They had announced that there was a soup supper for who was it? Humane Society. I thought they had that written down here. Yes, 6 to 8 p.m. at the First Christian Church. So
What day is that?
Was that the 7th? I'll have to look.
There's a lot of stuff going on the 7th.
It was on a Friday.
It was on a Friday. I'll have to check back into that. I just heard that and tried to jot down a note and didn't get very well. But it's in February, so I'll find out for sure. Hey, Justin, you want to come on out?
Sure.
So I don't have any sort of a presentation or anything. It's just we have this memorandum of understanding which the City Commission considered and approved at our meeting yesterday. It's that fiber internet build with Rainbow Communications. The amounts you've seen before. It's nothing secret in it. It's just the formal agreement that needs to be adopted for them to start getting it built. Their date of completion that they have in here is in May. So pretty quick turnaround time, and can answer any questions you might have about it. Or I also sent it to the county councilor late last week, so I believe he had a chance to look at it too.
I thought it'd be sooner because the new facility said they'd be up in 6 weeks, which I don't see it.
That was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I can't speak to how fast they're going to be able to execute on that.
That they're going to have to start without it, but I mean
that's as quick as Rainbow is willing to commit to. So.
Sure.
So we have a resolution number for that?
Yeah.
I got
It's in your back. It's in your back.
Resolution number 2018-1433.
I make a motion to adopt.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I've got the wrong one.
Yeah.
Where is that?
Maybe there isn't.
Did you have one that was signed from?
Yes, I do have the one that the mayor
that needs to be signed. That was a minimum maintenance road, and I don't have a resolution.
It just says memorandum of understanding.
Do you have the resolution for today? Does it have a number on it? The minimum maintenance road.
Yes, that's the one I read was for minimum maintenance road.
And that's 1430.
1331.
Pretty cool.
1431 was setting the public hearing.
Okay, well, she's got them both here. One's there's 1431 and 33 are here. 31 is where we published it, and 33 is declaring roads a minimum maintenance. I think that was in here for reference, but I have no.
She can give it the number afterwards, but I don't know what 1432 is, if it was assigned to that.
Well, I would make a motion to approve a resolution to adopt the memoranda of understanding for the build-out of fiber optics.
Justin, may I see that?
Certainly.
Wouldn't that be a? Okay, that's exactly the same as what we've got.
Do we need to put dollar amount on that?
It's in there.
It's I can read the dollar amount.
33,997.
33,997 would be the county government's portion.
Okay, it's been moved to accept and sign the memorandum of understanding. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Pass 3-0. You need to sign more than just the one.
Probably just the chairman.
But I mean one copy.
That's acceptable to Rainbow. I'm just going to scan that. That has the originals for both the mayor and for the chairman here. And Rainbow said that's sufficient to get them going. And then I'll send them that original, and they'll send it back. And as far as we're concerned, you guys can have the original if you want. All of our file storage is digital. So.
Paid on completion, or they want money up
On completion. Yeah, the other language that's in there is just about the size of the equipment cabinet and things, because we agreed to let them sit inside the water
Should
tower.
we have two? Should we have a copy?
Well, we don't have two originals signed by.
No, Michelle said she figured she'd get a copy of the signed one later.
All right.
Can she then apply the resolution number, or
I can go over and ask her.
why don't we straighten it out while we're all here? Make sure that, if it needs to have that on.
Rainbow's not going to care as long as they've got the signature in here from both of us. They'll move forward, and then the rest of it can, the original, however many or whatever, that can all sort out that way.
But while you're here, I mean, if we can get that on there and take a copy of it, I think then that way we've got a duplicate and everything will be set.
Sounds okay to me.
How is everything going with that? Everything going smooth with the transition for the new company, or?
I believe so. I know they have some other management in place, and I don't know that I don't know how far along they are with the rest of the folks that are going to work there. I don't know exactly. I know they've got some other former management back and employed here.
2018-1434 for this memorandum.
Did you get that?
Yep, that's.
The mystery is what's 3-2?
It's the tax sale.
Tax sale, okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. You got it all done.
Yeah.
Write that on here.
Got two. Oh, you're going to hear. I was like, I think I got it.
24.
2018. $14.34.
And can you stop over and have Michelle make a copy of that? And
Yeah.
Take care of
Yeah, no problem.
it? That's fine.
She'll keep the copy in there.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for doing all this.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure.
Well, have a
Sit
seat.
up here in the high dollar seats.
Yeah.
No, you can sit right up here if you
Sign
want.
that sheet.
No, this one's just fine.
Yeah.
Sign that sheet. I don't read if we have any more, but if we do, we can catch them on hand.
Around.
How's everybody doing today?
My file.
Are you guys open for discussion now? Are you going for anything? I know you're waiting on 130 for the other,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Another subject.
but you talked about earlier, you guys are going to have to close the fracture critical bridges with the so many years, is that right?
Well, there will come a time they have to be closed. So if we don't get on them, yeah, they will have to be. I don't know if there's a finite date.
Okay, there isn't.
Not that I know of, but there may be on some, but I don't know. There's not a time that it has to be done by state statute or anything.
Okay, that was my misunderstanding. So there won't be bridges closed 5 years from now, or there will be, or.
Well, that might depend on weather, condition. I mean, without any further deterioration of the bridges, no, there's nothing I know of that. But
right back here, Mr. Oswald, there's a map of what we did and what we plan on doing, but that's not 5 years out. We're going to probably go out for bond. We're shooting for 8 bridges in 18-19, and then we'll see how that goes. See how it's going to be spread throughout the county. They'll all be fracture critical, and then we'll see how the people feel about them, and then get more aggressive because the savings. One, bond interest rate's cheap, and if you go out and get bids on 8 bridges, you might be getting that 8th bridge for free for what your savings.
Mm-hmm.
Those bridges are listed on there, the 8 you're going after?
Well, so far there are targeted ones. We haven't specifically made up our mind yet. We're going to pick more than 8, look at them, and see which ones.
Okay, so you aren't definite on which 8 you're going to do.
No, we're shooting for like $1.5 million.
Over the first bond, $1.5 million, maybe 1.75. It depends on which bridges are selected and where they come in on. We may have to swap a bridge to fit in with what we're willing to bond. The ones with the yellow circles are the ones we're considering. If they've got a orange dot inside of them, which they all should, I think there's one that isn't. That means that they're fracture critical bridges. We're really.
This might be an easier map one look at, Commissioner.
Well,
or maybe Roger can explain it better.
And so I personally, this last week, I've toured most of the ones in the southwestern part of the county, clear over to we're north of Fowler's, and I plan on getting to actually physically look at the rest of them this week. I know there's 2 of them west of your former place down there going straight west to Cheyenne.
Yep.
There's those 2 are on the list. That would be high because one's a 5, one's a 6, I believe.
And those are on county road.
Yes.
So.
But to me, that looked like it was a good thoroughfare because west of my 80 going straight west to Cheyenne is a pretty good truck route. They get on Cheyenne, go north. Am I correct? I mean, that's what we're trying to look at, is to try to not only just because this is a fracture critical bridge, but places there that the more traffic,
Sure.
But we also realize that it has to be, there's some areas that it's not going to be a high traffic area, but that's the only way in or out. And if there's an alternate way in, some of these might be looking like they need to be replaced, but if there is an alternate way in, they might be delayed until we get some of the other ones done first.
Will any of the weight limits be increased on these bridges that get replaced?
Oh, yes.
The width and the weight limit.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
So we're not going back with.
Oh, no. They're going to be. They won't have a weight limit on them, I don't believe.
Wider.
Similar, like east of Muskota, the one they put going north up to, like that. That was a Husker steel bridge there. But although that one, I thought it looked like a tremendous bridge, and it's got a 16-foot deck, which is probably not quite 16 foot. And right away somebody said, well, with these new combines with the duals on them, they can't cross them, so we are going to go wider. It'll probably be a 20-foot minimum.
Yeah, 20 or 24.
That's fantastic.
What about the bridges if there is no other access to? Some of them are just barely enough to get something over top of them in the weight limit.
Well, basically the strategy is to pick up 7 or 8 bridges in this bond that are the most critical and spread out, so it's not just one part of the county. But then every 3 years issue another bond, and then do 8 more, then 3 years or 8 more. Then the bonds are coming off, and then we decide to go more. In a 10-year period, we might be able to get 32 bridges improved, which would be fantastic. It'd be fantastic, especially when you think of agriculture of the future. The weight, the width follows things that have to come into play in a strategy that makes sense to everybody.
Yeah.
20 foot sounds wonderful.
Well, that's what
That's
I
the
would have
minimum,
never
24.
thought.
I thought we was talking more like 24.
Well, I said at least
24 is
20.
even better, especially if they have sides.
I thought we was
Yeah.
talking 24.
Well, and that again, that could maybe come to how much travel there is on that road. If it's a very little traveled road,
Here's what I know. I have a combine with duals on it.
needs to be done
Almost 20 foot outside to outside of the duals. So,
on the duals.
on
It
the
is
duals.
okay.
So
It's wider yet than I don't have one of those, so and we would check before we would issue a 20. I want to make sure that that's wider because the next model of combine might be 21.
So if you have a 20 foot deck and then you have a side rail or something that takes 6 inches off,
Well, that's what this one with the 16. Well, it says 16-foot deck, but by the time you put your rails on it, it wasn't quite 16. So there are already people with duals on that can't cross it, which in this day and age, it needs to be wide enough for combine with duals and to handle a semi.
To answer Mr. Gearing's question, I think we're going to look at bus routes, how much the road is traveled, and start with them first. Eventually, we'll get to some of the bridges, but you know, this problem we kind of inherited, and it's a big problem.
This
It's
is
a
something
big
that
problem.
should have been, 2 or 3 more bridges a year put in
20
over
years
quite,
ago.
20. This should have been a ongoing thing. So we're going to try to get ahead of it and get some of the worst ones taken care of anyway. But anyway, it's 1:30, and I guess this is a public hearing there on the minimum maintenance roads.
Call it to order.
I'll call it to order. How do you suggest we just ask?
If anyone wants to give evidence or testimony to the board about the proposals.
Well, is there just any questions? Let's somebody start off on what we're doing with the minimum.
I got one. What is your definition of a minimum maintenance road?
Okay, the minimum maintenance road, this designation is basically a classification so to help the townships with their, what's the word? Liability, yeah. I can never think of that word. It gives them an extra insulation from if somebody, their Garmin tells them to go down a dirt road and there's a rut and they catch it and have a wreck, the signage and everything will help insulate any lawsuits or anything. This isn't a
No maintenance.
it's not no maintenance. It's not a abandonment. It's the maintenance should continue on these roads, but it's just a designation for legal purposes, basically.
I
You
might
want me to
speak
give
from
an intro to this?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
might speak from the township point of view. You go out there on an afternoon like this, and the road's greasy. It's froze underneath, and somebody slides off into a tree or a post, and then they want the township to fix it. We're hoping that a sign up at the beginning of that road before they ever get on it says, "Hey, this is not a road to be on."
Okay, Roger?
Can you answer that?
In order to give you an intro of how this came up, what has happened, somebody came in and said, I have a road next to my property. We did not currently have it in the county maintenance system. The township had told us they were not maintaining it at all. But in researching the records, we found that there actually had been dedicated road in that location. We had no evidence that it had ever been done away with. So we put the road back on. But in the process, in the studying and working with K.S.A, we found that they have recently come up with a designation as minimum maintenance road. It means that roads like that, which are currently dirt, unimproved, maybe get graded once every 5 or 10 years, or even in the case of this road, hadn't been graded in 17 years, we were told. Those roads can continue to remain open just as they always are. This does not close them, but by putting up a sign that says this is a minimum maintenance road, it allows the township and the county to limit their liability. Now, we know that we hear on roads like that on a regular basis. After it rains, you find people going four-wheeling on tearing up the roads, doing things. This is not saying they won't continue to maintain them or do anything that they always did. It just says that when you head down a road that's posted minimum maintenance, that's a dirt road, you need to be careful and to warn people not to go down. This will not close any roads that aren't already closed. It's not to change maintenance on any road that's already being maintained in any manner. It's just to say that those roads which are not surface improved, isn't gravel, isn't paved, that those roads would have this standard added to them and should be posted. Okay? I hope that helps.
It also wouldn't change anything as far as the tubes and bridges. I mean, those have to be maintained, inspected, and so that wouldn't change at all. This is basically the signage for a warning. And I've got a dirt road on the south end of where me and my dad farm there or have pasture, and it's subject to the same thing. It's in Benton. They didn't actually apply yet. I think they've just turned information in, but I know what it's like to have a road that you need access to the backside of your farm, so I wouldn't want to change that. I think it's a good thing to have all the townships participate.
I just want everybody to know that these, like you said, they're not closed roads. There's something that, say you want to go build a house down there someday, or one of your kids, that can still be done. They can be turned into a regular road someday. It's got a name, it's got a street number, whatever, but they can be brought back to life to where you can build houses on them.
And no road's ever going to get closed unless you guys published it and approved
Right.
it and went through that whole process. So
Yes.
it wouldn't change anything.
I think that's what the fear, and if I had a minimum maintenance road, that would be my fear. Is this the first step of closing? And that's not our intention.
I think where a lot of the concern came from that I've been hearing is the term minimum maintenance. It's hard to basically perceive. We started with the beginning. We knew instantly, or through what we've been reading and the information we've had of what they meant. So when it went out to anybody that hasn't dealt with it before, when you hear the term minimum maintenance road, what does that mean? So I can understand maybe the messaging wasn't good. That for the people in the public, that when you read it in the paper, what does that mean? So that's probably a little shortcoming maybe on our part, but there's no and nothing on our part to make the roads any poor or any worse or anything like that. This is signage mainly. More questions?
We have a map that townships,
Over here,
whichever townships you're in, chose. This wasn't a county commissioner's decision. The townships made their choices.
We offered to every township and we are asking every township to classify their roads as to who maintains those roads and what the condition of those roads are. Having said that, the only township which had responded as of the time of the publication were the ones that are not colored in there. We had 4 townships which had responded and let us know what their unpaved, ungraveled roads were. The 4 that are on there, I just received Benton's information yesterday, but the other 3 have not yet responded. But to the county, it would be valuable to us to know who is maintaining what roads and to what condition they are. Even the emergency vehicles want to know whether a road is likely to be passable in inclement weather or not, and whether or not it's a public road. So we're looking for all of that information.
It's going to slow down the emergency responders if there is an accident. Down some of them when they see this sign, minimum maintenance, so they got to.
May actually speed it up because they won't get stuck and have to call someone else to come out there.
Are you sure they won't get stuck?
I'm never sure of anything.
That can happen on the gravel road in the bad times.
I figure the more information they have to operate on at the time they leave the station, the better off you're going to be in those cases. So that they can make a decision with the best interest.
I asked that very question to our emergency manager this morning in workshop, and he thought in most cases it would be maybe a fire, but the roads would be dry, and chances are there's no residents down these houses, so it wouldn't be an emergency. It might be somebody decided to go down there mudding and have a wreck. It might be hampered, but
Well, I wasn't so much talking about on the road. I'm talking about after you get to the end of the road out in this 400 or 500 acre
Oh, you mean if the farmer has an accident out in
Yeah.
the farm?
tractor overturn, anything. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
You have a procedure how to handle that.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
sure
know
that,
what it is.
that would be, emergency vehicles have to travel at speeds that are, maintainable or then safe. So if they're not going to avoid going down that road if there's an accident down there. Matter of fact, we even have vehicles from the sheriff's vehicles and everything else that if it's a mud road or muddy or that they can access it and help these individuals out. So this day and age we got Garmin, and Garmin or like devices are telling people to turn here, and we've got a lot of people that are turning down these mud roads and they do not look, and they go down and they realize it's a little sticky and they keep getting further and further, and they're getting in some tight spots, and hopefully the signs will be a warning and that maybe they need to look before they go any further. So that's part of our reasoning for this.
I would hope it would be a warning, but sometimes I wonder if it's an invitation for the four-wheelers. It looks like after every rain is when the mud roads get tore up.
Yeah, but we don't want the lawsuits from those people after they go down in there and get hurt. They shouldn't be doing it, but they are, and you're not going to stop them.
Yeah. Any more questions, or gladly talk? We've got plenty of time there if anybody's got any concerns.
One of the real purposes, or the real purpose of having a public hearing isn't so much for the board to answer questions that you might have, but for you to give your input to the board on should these be adopted as, or determined to be minimum maintenance roads or not. So, particularly if you have an opinion one way or the other, now would be your time to let the board know.
Adopting as minimum maintenance roads.
Well, I would hope the township wouldn't cut down on maintenance on these roads.
There's no plan of that at all. We're not cutting back on anything we do now. It's just that if it's a mud road, we're not going to put rock on it at this time.
I kind of realize I'm working with you guys, and the commissioners too. What worries me is 10, 20 years down the road when you're kicked out of office, what the new ones will do. I hope there's protection written in this for that.
You'll still be around and get on the board. Make sure that stays like it's supposed to.
I ain't gonna be around, but I can still pray.
one of my concerns was, are we saying we don't want no more homes in the rural area? Like, if these roads were rocked, are we? You don't think there's any chance of that's not discourage anybody building down there or out there? Or?
Well, I think Dolores mentioned that it can be reversed if there's a road that somebody's going to build a new house on. It can be brought back to us, the commission, and it can be designated it back as another road, as a full service road.
I wouldn't even think it would have to come back to the commission. I would think the township should just do it on their own. I have one down there I just took from minimum maintenance and fixed it, and it didn't really need to have bulldozing or anything like that done. It just needed to be rocked And, because there's one house going up and there's possible 3 more going. And yeah, that's what I wanted everybody to know, that we still want people and their kids and grandkids to maybe come in and build a house on a road that's minimum maintenance. And at that time, it will get, to where the signs can come down and it won't be minimum maintenance any longer.
Well, that is a question then. Do you guys, since you designated them as minimum maintenance, does that need to be reversed by you guys?
I don't know the answer to that because it's not addressed in the statute, but that would certainly be the safest way. It also looks like under the statute, if they ordered the signage to be removed, that the road would no longer have the protection that's offered under the Kansas Tort Claims Act. So that's probably not the cleanest way to do it, but I would think the best practice would be for the Board of County Commissioners to amend your resolution that determines which roads are minimum maintenance roads. And I'm also going to suggest sort of a best practice that if you add in the future, if you determine that these should be declared minimum maintenance roads, and you want to add roads to it in the future, that this resolution should be amended so that they're all in one place. So when somebody's looking for them, they won't have to go through and read 7 or 8 resolutions to find which roads have been determined to be minimum maintenance. So
Benton has just turned in their information, and when we just need to amend this to include theirs instead of having a whole new.
When you consider that, yes, but it has to go through a public hearing process. So
right.
You have to do a publication. And yes, I would think we just amend that resolution to add Benton's.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. Who puts the signs up? Who pays for them?
Signs are already purchased, and isn't that?
I think the county furnished the signs, and the township were to put them up, correct?
Or was it?
I don't know. I paid for mine.
What did I say?
Okay, then maybe I got it reversed. The
I think it's
pay for them, county puts them up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's.
I don't know. I paid for mine. And,
yeah.
And they still got them out there.
Wasn't that the way it was?
Told me to come get them.
Yeah, I knew it was one way or the other.
And I think if this passes, then we've got, was it 10 days that we're supposed to go up?
10 days to get them up. Yeah.
It's ground throws.
That should be thawed by then.
You might.
I'm going to say if you pass it now, and you have crossing ground, you can't get signed yet.
No. What about that?
We need to lengthen that.
That's set by statute. There's always going to be a reasonableness factor that's applied. The question would be if somebody were to be injured on the road 5 days from now, would it be covered? I don't know what the answer to that would be, and hopefully we'll never find that out because it takes a pretty strange set of facts before you would have a reason for a court to test that. But I think we are prepared to have, from talking with Seth, that we are prepared to have them put up within 10 days. So.
Sure.
Now, I heard it mentioned that if they're designated minimum maintenance, there'd be no more rock put on them at this time. I'm just wondering about, suppose you got one spot in this dirt road that's a real sinkhole, real mud hole. Does that mean that the township cannot put rock in that?
Oh, no, they can maintenance them however they choose to. I mean.
Oh. I think if you had a road that a house was a half a mile down and they always came out one direction, it was dirt beyond that property, you could still put a sign up on that road saying minimum maintenance road, even though half a mile was graveled and half a mile was not. Would I be correct on thinking that?
That is correct. There's an Attorney General opinion that says essentially the same thing. That the question was asked whether or not they could be a road that had a residence on it could be a minimum maintenance road, and the Attorney General opinion says that yes, it may.
Would that sign have to say minimum maintenance road a mile from here, or?
No, the sign goes at the beginning of when it becomes a minimum maintenance road. So
if you did have a spot that needed rock because it's just a mud hole, a sinkhole.
Yeah.
The township could do it.
Township has discretion to blade them to maintain those, and if it needed a load of gravel or more dirt or they're going to maintain these roads. It's just a designation that it's if reasonable to say that if it's muddy, it's not passable with a car or light duty vehicle.
It's really not going to change the way the road is maintained.
No.
It's just a sign to tell people that kind of like travel at your own risk.
Yes.
If it's muddy, you're going to get stuck.
It's a warning. And hopefully it'll turn some of these people from. We've had everything from furniture delivery vans, and it says turn west here. The houses where they're going to is a half mile, but they went by the gravel roads. You have to go 3 miles, so they try to cut through. Of course, they don't look; they just go down there. So hopefully this will get stop some of that. And if people do go down there and get stuck or hurt or have a problem there, that it has some additional protections for the townships. Mr. Gary?
You let them know where to put the sign, how many you need.
The townships actually turned that in. Yes.
Yeah, actually, this map shows all those minimum maintenance roads on it. Anything on here which is shown is the light brown road. And then what I've done is a plan, which I think I had given to Seth and to Pat, which basically shows where the beginning of each of those chunks would be. And then I gave him the number of signs that each township would need. Okay.
Mr. Corpson?
Yeah, I recall, Greg probably know more about this, but at the last road that we had, it was a dirt road down of the private people, the way I understood it. If the private people would rock it the first time, then the township had to maintain it. I'm talking about the most wanted in Fox over there. And I was just wondering if that still applies, or did I get that wrong, or?
You still rocking.
Yeah, but they put the rock on first. Wasn't that the deal?
That I have no idea. I went in there.
That's correct.
Yeah, I know a couple of them. They had to rock them and get them in maintainable order.
Then the township
takes over. Yes.
Yeah. I don't.
So is that just a word of mouth thing, or is that because we've kind of said the same thing to our people in our township. I don't know where we came up with it.
There's a statute on that. If the road has been opened by the Board of County Commissioners but has not been maintained for a period of, I believe it's 10 years, then the landowner who wants it maintained has an obligation under the statute to bring it up to standards before the township has to begin to maintain the road.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, what's maintaining? Because we maintain dirt roads.
Well,
in that case, they'd have to gravel it and grade it more than they would your dirt roads.
You're going to know a lot more about maintaining roads than I ever will, I'm sure. But the township has an obligation to make the roads reasonably safe for a reasonably prudent driver. Period. And what's required to do that? I think it probably differs from road to road.
Keeping the brush cut back would be one thing, but they'd have to maintain that.
I haven't never heard of that happening where you had somebody willing to build basically infrastructure, a house, barn, whatever, down a dirt road that there's new taxable income going down that road. I mean, it's worth a lot to the township and to the county both there to have a rock road to it. I don't know of anybody that's ever had that happen and refused.
Jennifer Hank did it, and then there's a place north of Ed Novinsky's house over a dirt road, and the people building a new house had to build the road.
Well,
they had to rock it, and then the township had to maintain.
I meant refusal after it was brought up. You know, I don't think a township would want to refuse to maintain it if they brought it up.
Where it gets sticky is everybody wants the road past their property gravel so they can go anytime they want. We have a situation West Effingham where it saves them 3.5 miles going around, and they want us to gravel a mile of road to save them 3.5.
Right.
So how does the township deal with that?
We told them they gravel it the first time. we would even bring it up into condition, but they had to gravel it the first time. And we would maintain it.
Do they then go forth with it, or they drop it?
Well, the contention of that was that leads to 3 miles of dirt road on the other end. The other mile needed to be gravelled by another township, and that hasn't happened yet. They said they were going to, and that was 2 years ago, and so they're not going to go out and gravel a road until
it all gets, the other township complies or agrees or.
But the other township was going to do it on their own without any private landowner doing it. So townships vary.
Yeah. That's where you might get a little hairy, because if the house wasn't in the second township there, they really had nothing to gain by gravel.
There's no house.
This is just access.
Same.
For
get the cattle.
Yeah.
So
that becomes basically a matter for the townships. I mean, how they choose to do it. I mean, you still have some autonomy to, your answer to your constituents, kind of like we do. So, but I think that's where that lies.
K.S.A. 68-115A gives the township board of each township the authority to establish minimum standards for road beds and road drainage. So it's up to the township to determine what the standards are. And KSA 68-115, and I was wrong, it's 20 years if it's been, if the road had been opened but had not been maintained for at least 20 years. It's the duty of the owner to establish a maintainable road bed and drainage in accordance with the standards established by the township. And the Board of County Commissioners has no authority to tell a township how to maintain a road. So that's on the township. If the township isn't maintaining the road, the county commission doesn't have the authority to tell them to go maintain it either. So that's people in the townships need to vote.
The minimum maintenance designation that we're voting on today doesn't change that a bit. I mean, there is no difference between after this designation is put on there as far as the township maintenance from where it was before. So really, I can't see where it's any worse off. So is there any other questions?
Back to them bridges. There is a bridge I'd like the commissioners to look at to see about either shoring it up a little more till it can be replaced, or they went down there and shored it up some, but it needs more addressed attention to it. That'd be the one that goes back into Walter Funk's property down there by Floyd Bowdrews.
Can I suggest we get the meetings
They
done and
shored
close
it
it?
up, but that bridge, I wouldn't run a track over.
And then talk about bridges.
Yeah. Okay. I'll get with you later and get the address of that, because I don't know. Do you know which bridge he's talking about? Well, I can get it from there, and we'll look at it.
Yeah, I mean, they run a lot of stuff across that during the time they get the crops out there. So.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? Sure.
Kind of getting away from the maintenance deal, but on the bridge Greg was talking about. I would like to have seen him throw a good tube in there the last time. I don't know if it was you or one of the county guys said that there's too much drainage. I almost beg to differ with him on that, because there's two tubes just a quarter of a mile above it that very seldom ever run over. If you put a foot bigger tube in, it should handle a lot more. And I think you could have probably maybe put a tube in for what you spent on repairing that the last time, put some of the piling underneath, get away on it.
some of that has a determination by KDHE, so tube a lot of times restricts flow, so that some of that, is not up to us, but I'm sure Seth could look into that.
Well, I know it isn't, but sometimes the landowner might know more than
I'm sure of that, but then there's also things that we have to comply with. Also.
I've been over that for 40 years, so I know what we're talking about.
Mr. Penny?
Another thing about that bridge is you can't run semis across it to haul the grain out. You have to use little trucks. Older combines is all you can take across it. The newer combines way too much.
Mm-hmm.
I farm on the other side, and got guys that put on anhydrous pneumonia, and they won't cross that bridge. So we're left without options, really.
Okay. Well, see, why don't we visit with that after we kind of take care of business at hand here? Is there any more questions on the minimum maintenance road designation? Do I need to read this for?
You can close the public hearing.
You can close the public hearing, and then you.
All right. I'll hereby close the public hearing on the minimum maintenance roads, and shall I ask for?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2018-1433, declaring certain roads within Atchison County as minimum maintenance roads pursuant to K.S.A. 65-5, 102.
Should the whole thing be read, or?
You don't have to.
Okay.
You could if you wanted to, but it's not.
I haven't got enough oxygen.
Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion on that, or wanting the resolution read, it's been moved. I hear a second.
With no other discussion, the only thing that I brought, Mr. Alvin brought up a good point. 10 days, the signs have to be put up. What if they can't be put up in a 10-day period?
Well, if we're prohibited by the weather, an act of God from doing it, we'd be excused from it, but we should try to get put up within the time. The resolution actually isn't effective until publication, so arguably it's 10 days from then, but we should do the best we can to get them up as quickly as we can.
Anybody else have anything they want to say before it's seconded? I see none. I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Resolution number 2018-1433 is passed.
If you do have a problem, work within your township. Work with them. I'm sure they'll be willing to work with you.
And it sounds like to me we need to have maybe a meeting to talk about these bridges at some point. Because it sounds like this bridge sounds pretty critical to me. But
we are talking about having another township meeting again like we did last year. Is there any subject or anything that you can think of that would really be of interest to you during that meeting?
You've heard from it for about 14, 15 years now, and I know you've heard from the landowners. The guy that low water crossing down below Warren Rumpke needs attention. And I brought it to the attention every year. And he's been up there 3 or 4 times. So this caving off on the south side, I dumped riprap in there. The tube is plugged up. It needs to be addressed. I know he's been arguing the last 3 or 4 years, and I've been arguing 16 years. And nobody's done anything to it. I'm about to fix it ourselves. But it is your guys' responsibility.
I went down there the day after the last time Mr. Rumpke was here and took pictures, and I think the road coming down the bridge is more accident prone than the bridge.
Well, there's not a lot you can do. There's rock ledges.
I know. I got the picture right over the bridge that I took. Yes, it is a problem. Yes, it could be better, but it's not near as what we was told it was.
Well, all I'm saying is all taken off on the south side. I've dumped a couple loads of riprap in there in the last 6, 7, 8 years and tried to fix it a little bit. But I got a guy who works for me in Zonda County with that put in. And there is a tube underneath that concrete.
I'd say the tube's plugged up to what I say.
Yeah.
And now the water's flowing over the top.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, that's that and that bridge down south of town, that's really the only really bad spots in our township. You know, we've got some other ones where we've got springs in the road and stuff, and we'll address that this year, but it's just been it. That's all we're going to do.
Okay. Well, if there is any other topics or anything, get back with us. I thought it was a pretty successful meeting last year. First one we had between the commissioners and the township boards.
My personal opinion is we had Norm Byers last time, and he got too broad. I would like to see it brought more locally in the problems we have and with our townships, and let the townships do more speaking. I don't know, we have a couple trustees. Did you take anything away from Mr. Byers' talk?
Yeah, I think so, but I kind of have to agree with you that maybe having a meeting where one township can get ideas from another township of how to deal with something they've dealt with would help. Not to say we do it the same way.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your input.
Learn something new every day.
And feel free to look at the map, the upper map up there on bridges that we're considering on replacing, if you want to. And we don't have very much more. Would we want to recess for just a little bit so we can show them the map? And I'll make a motion that we recess for 5 minutes and
they'll know their area.
Yeah.
Recess for 5 minutes?
Yeah. Do we need to vote?
I move to recess for 5 to 10 minutes. I move to recess for 10 minutes.
10 minutes? It's been moved in second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pass 3-0.
Ain't got nothing better to do.
Yeah.
Do I, Eric, am I stopping this?
Yeah. Stop.
We're on.
Okay. Back in session. Not very much left. The next thing we have is a PO from Seth. He couldn't be here today because he was going to want to training. This is for Dimension Full Rough Douglas Fir bridge planking in an amount of $14,992 from Wheeler Hardware. 3-inch by 12-inch by 16-foot, 1-inch full rough Douglas fir treated with copper methanolate. Do I hear any discussion on this?
I was just going to say,
I'm sorry.
Wasn't sure we were over.
It's out there at Loftenberg.
Oh,
We've been buying planks there for a long time.
it says Warren, so it must be their home office.
Well, no, this isn't Wheeler Hardware.
Oh, this is where they are.
No, this is, you say Des Moines?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not Wheeler Hardware. Well, you took it from Wheeler Hardware.
I would make a motion to buy the Douglas for $14,992.
I would have like a real conversation. Hopefully, he shops around. I mean, I hate to prove, that's one bid, or has he got more bids, or that.
I remember on the last purchase, he said there's very few places that offer this. That I know at that time he had priced around. So
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Pass 3-0.
So I could financially justify it, but it's got to happen first. But yeah, I don't have a problem with this.
Okay, is there any old or unfinished business before the board? We don't have any county council updates?
Yes, the chili supper that was mentioned for the Humane Society is February 2nd. From 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And it's in the First Christian Church on North 7th Street.
Thank you.
Tomorrow is the meeting, the MOCAN meeting. I did plan to go on behalf of the county. My recollection is that Mr. Spady suggested to us that we would pay basically half of the membership costs for the second part of the year to maintain the second part of the fiscal year, which is the first part of this calendar year, first half of this calendar year, to maintain membership, and that essentially that's just the message I intend to take tomorrow. I didn't know if there was any other discussion we needed to have before. So, Roger Denton is planning to go as well. He goes ordinarily to those meetings, and so I'll let you know.
A little bit of background is we've been having discussions with Mid-America Regional Council,
right?
And I believe that the director of the Mid-American Regional Council felt it was prudent to let Mark know that we were discussing it. So that may be where there's a change in what he had originally said to us. So.
Have they been notified of that?
I don't know whether they've been notified of it. He said that he would normally do that under just,
sure. Well, I wonder if I should make a point of mentioning that.
We're shopping. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't shy away from it. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
And I guess really, Pat, we question the value proposition.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know, I get that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll take that message to them. Well, candidly, I was a little confused because it was my recollection that was their suggestion to us, and then the email that I saw sounded like they wanted us to come ask them if they would accept it. And I thought we were accepting their offer, not we were making an offer to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what I wanted to get clarified, is if your understanding was the same as mine, that they had offered and we were accepting that.
Yeah, that's the way I would put it.
On the tax sale was not filed on Friday, and we had a little bit of trouble with CIC. One of the pieces of data that I had mistakenly thought was on the spreadsheet report that we could get was the penalties and interest that were calculated to a specific date. We talked to Wes last week about it. He's been in touch with CIC to get that updated, and I just talked to him this morning, and he hasn't gotten the update from them. So as soon as we have it, we'll have it filed either this Friday, or if we don't have it before Thursday, then probably next Friday.
But you feel you get the information?
Yes. CIC has one report that is only available in PDF to export to PDF that has the information on it. The reports that export to Excel, Microsoft Excel, which would allow us to use the computer to do that instead of manually preparing the petition, does not have that in there.
Can you convert a PDF to Excel?
Yes, I have software that does that, but the formatting is such that it's hard to read. Yeah, it's one page for every parcel. And we looked into doing what's it called? It's not tilt tables. It's
I know what you're saying.
yeah.
I can't think of
We couldn't figure out a way to do that, and especially we know that CIC can that the software can calculate it because it puts it on this one report, and I think we'll have that soon. And then we will also, after we have it, we will have the ability to access it ourselves without having to go through CIC. So I just want to let you know that wasn't filed as we had discussed. And I have the memorandum of understanding down that we've already covered that.
Okay, nothing further there. So, is there any need for an executive session?
There's none that I know of. Okay. If you want to, we could. But
I haven't got any reason. That's not.
Okay. All right. No other business at hand, so do I hear a motion
I
to...
have one thing.
Oh, sorry.
The Project Atchison dinner on February 7th, they want all of us to attend. Is that going to be a coma violation? Should
No.
just one of us?
No, you may go. You just...
Project Concern?
Project Atchison. It's February 7th, isn't it?
No, that's Project Concern, isn't it? Do they same
I
something?
think they're
No.
Project Atchison also.
Project Atchison had something February 7th they want us to
Oh, that on the Wednesday night. I was thinking
Yes.
the 7th is on Friday. All right.
Be a great time to listen.
And then on another note, there's a webinar about duties of a commissioner and sexual health. Do we want to sign up for that? That's on the 7th as well. It was in that blue folder.
Sexual harassment. Well, just
that was a
wasn't
broad thing about how commissioners treat employees.
That's a webinar. Is that available anytime, or does that have to be done
that day? I think. It's in that. It's in this blue pack.
We would have to get permission from the provider. We do have the technology to record it to do it later. I don't know if it's got a continuing education component that requires that you be live and have the ability to ask questions. But we'd have to get permission to record it, which I think would be easily granted.
That's it. It's right here.
And K.S.A. allowed us to do that earlier when we recorded the one on open meetings, or no, open records. It was open records, and watched it later.
Okay, the K.S.A. is offering on February 7th a webinar titled Employment Law, Protecting Your Employees and Your Organization from Harassment. How to prevent, stop, and report harassment in the workplace. Excuse me. I thought maybe there'd be...
Well, bullet points there.
Yeah.
I read it. It'd be best just let
that's right. I was just going to take this home and read this. That's the reason I had it.
We got plenty of time, but if it's not too costly, we probably...
Well, we'd have to come in. That's 7th is a Wednesday.
Correct.
So that's the reason I asked about another day, if that was something that we could do as on a commission day, maybe on a work session or something.
We'll be recorded. I may be gone, so I'm not available anyway. So.
Okay, you're going the first 2 Tuesdays in February. Okay.
So we got a wall.
Okay. Well, now, if there's no other further business, do I hear a motion to adjourn at 2:30?
I shall move, Mr. Chairman, adjourn at 2:30.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.